Hello and welcome to today's webinar, How to Strengthen Your Cyber Defense with a Data Security Maturity Model. I want to give a special thanks to Rubrik, who is the sponsor for today's event. We've got a great discussion and a cool demo lined up for you. Before we get started, there's just a few things that you should know. My name is David Davis of Actual Tech Media, and I'll be serving as the moderator and host for today's event. As always, we want these events to be educational, and we encourage your questions here in the questions tab of the audience console. We also have a number of resources there in the handouts tab. I want to call your attention to those. Make sure you check those out. And at the end of the live event, I'll be announcing the winner of our Amazon $250 gift card. If you're watching this on demand or recorded, of course, that drawing would have already occurred. The prize terms and conditions can be found right there in the handouts tab. All right, and with that housekeeping information out of the way, it's now time to bring in today's expert presenters. I'm excited to welcome Anika Gupta, Chief Product Officer at Rubrik, and Ann Johnson, our featured speaker from Microsoft. And we'll also be joined by Valentin Cantu, who is an inside sales engineer at Rubrik, for our demo segment. All right, thank you to all of our expert speakers. And with that, I'll hand it off to you, Anika. Take it away.
I'm eager to share some of my own experience as well as hear from Ann on what she's seen in the field. With so much on the line when it comes to data security, it's critical that organizations take the time to assess how mature they actually are so they can continuously improve in a very thoughtful and methodical way. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation. As you know, zero trust has been a hot topic in the security industry. In this security framework, zero trust assumes that all entities, all users, devices, applications are untrusted until proven otherwise. It's a major shift from traditional security models where we assume that trust is based on access to a perimeter and focuses on verifying individual access to data and systems, detecting threats more proactively, and remediating threats more quickly. Especially as data is moving out of the data center and into the cloud and SaaS, zero trust is becoming a much more important principle for organizations to adopt in order to build cyber resilience. And I'd love to hear your thoughts and take on zero trust. Beyond the obvious reasons of cyber attacks being on the rise, can you share why you believe more and more organizations need to adopt zero trust principles?
Yeah, absolutely, Annika, and it's great to be here. To understand why zero trust is so important, you just need to look around the world around us. Every aspect of our lives is going digital. We are in a work from anywhere, work on any device world, and much of the technology we interact with today is cloud and AI powered. So now when you add compliance or data security, zero trust is becoming more important than ever before to protect our assets. There's this perfect storm of factors: a rise in cybercrime, a surge in remote work, and this digitization that is making zero trust so critical to the success of our cybersecurity programs. The customers I speak with know that zero trust is important to their journey, helping them strengthen their security posture and reduce the likelihood and the impact of cyber events.
Thanks, Ann. When I talk to customers, I also hear from them that they don't know where to get started. They don't know how to assess how good they're actually doing in their own security maturity journey. So as customers have been increasingly demanding the speed, safety, and confidence from zero trust, this is impacting their purchasing decisions as well, which is exactly why we're here to talk about practical approaches for organizations to adopt zero trust frameworks, regardless of their organizational maturity. So to start our discussion, Ann, what is a maturity model, and how have you seen companies leverage maturity models effectively for their organizations?
At the most fundamental level, a maturity model is a framework to measure and benchmark a program, a process, or a system. I am sure most of you are familiar with existing maturity models in cyber. For example, the NIST framework is something that we all use, and it's a really good example. Maturity models are important for a few pretty standard reasons. First, maturity models help effectively and objectively benchmark where you are and where you need to be. Second, maturity models are very helpful tools to identify priority investment areas. Also, maturity models are a great tool you can use to inform, to educate, and to update your key stakeholders. For the CEOs and the board members that are now asking about the strength and maturity of cyber programs, your maturity model is an effective tool in helping them better understand and better measure cyber risk management. Microsoft has a comprehensive zero trust maturity model, which you can find on Microsoft.com. But in a nutshell, the maturity model will help you determine how to best secure your digital estate. The typical digital estate for organizations covers applications, infrastructure, networks, and data. Microsoft recommends this three-phased approach, which shows the progression from a traditional zero trust approach through to an optimal zero trust environment. The model envisions organizations making incremental changes over time and improvements across your digital estate to move towards this optimized state. The goal of this maturity model is to help organizations assess what elements of zero trust you already have in place so then you can incrementally and continuously improve. Protecting the digital estate is critical, as you know. You know, Annika, ultimately, it's all about also protecting the assets. The most valuable asset an organization has, its data. And I'm thrilled with the improvements and the enhancements Rubrik has made in this space, and I know you're going to talk about it.
Thanks, Anne. You talked about the CEOs and boards, and one of the things that I hear a lot about when I talk to customers, especially when we're talking to IT professionals and security professionals, is that they really struggle to tell the CEO and board where they're at and talk about more objectively how to understand that security and zero trust is a journey. So love the framework that you've set up at Microsoft, and we're really excited to share more about how Rubrik is building off of that security maturity model to create zero trust data security.
Yeah, I know, Annika, and I know you've made so many improvements, right? We have this great partnership. You've made significant strides in this data security category, and I think the audience would love to hear what you've been up to. I know I want to hear about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to share more. So as I mentioned, we're introducing our own data security maturity model to help organizations assess their data security posture and how they can progress on their zero trust data security implementation journey, no matter where they're at today. So for this, let's first understand what data security is and why it's needed. Our world runs on data, and as we know, data is becoming the lifeblood of organizations. This is leading to an ever-increasing attack surface as data is shifting from being on-premise into the cloud and into SaaS applications as well. And at the same time, cyber criminals are also becoming much more advanced and sophisticated in their methods. So organizations, in response, need to protect their data from various forms of unauthorized access, encryption, and corruption. And in order to do that, they need to be able to quickly detect and respond to security breaches and data exfiltration, and recover data with speed and, most importantly, with confidence. Today's security investments have largely been securing the perimeter, but that's not been enough. We all know that attackers are still getting through to the data. Prevention and detection are necessary, but as we've seen, it's not sufficient. Attackers are still using sophisticated attacks like phishing to compromise identities and then get access to critical data assets within the enterprise. And even worse, they use these techniques to exploit vulnerabilities in traditional backup systems to compromise the last line of defense as well, so that organizations aren't actually able to recover when they lose their data. This is why zero trust data security is necessary. It helps IT teams keep data safe from cyber attacks and recover it easier, faster, and with more confidence. Zero trust data security has its own levels of maturity based on how organizations typically start to think about reducing downtime, building cyber resilience, and progressively adding more controls, policies, analytics, and validation to continue to reduce downtime, sometimes reducing it to as little as less than an hour. Based on conversations with our customers, we have identified a set of outcomes that organizations typically achieve as they implement different levels of data security maturity. And it really starts out with creating a system and creating the right controls in place so that you are ready and have the right data security posture to begin with. As you can see from this framework, it starts with the most basic and traditional stage, which is really about increasing your preparedness from data breaches and data exfiltration. This includes having safe and secure backups, as well as other aspects of recoverability hygiene to ensure key assets and processes are identified upfront before an attack actually happens. Then, in the second stage of maturity, organizations have started to take measures to prevent data breaches and data exfiltration, like conducting some tests and simulations. Organizations may also be monitoring a variety of signals from their data that help them identify data risks and investigate threats much, much faster. In the final stage of maturity, organizations have fully embraced a proactive stance towards data breaches and data exfiltration, regularly conducting tests of both vulnerabilities as well as recoverability, and constantly improving over time. Organizations are monitoring many different signals from data that lead to near zero downtime. As I mentioned, this is a journey every organization is on. And as cyber risk is constantly evolving and there are many more emerging risks, every organization is going to continuously have to improve, and they're never going to be done. Even when you're in the optimal state, there's going to still be more work that you can do to improve your overall data security posture.
It's great, Annika. Look, at the end of the day, our cyber defenders are trying to detect, protect, and defend against our data, giving organizations not only the visibility, but also the ability to do things like recoverability in a confident way, which they've not had in the past. It's such a huge change for the industry and such a needed change. And this makes data security such a critical part of any mature zero trust program, because when a bad actor is in your environment, they want access to your data. Your ability to detect and defend and to recover from those threats is such a critical part of the solution, and why I am so enthusiastic about the partnership we have with Rubrik and the advancements that you have made.
Thanks, Anne. And we have a lot more coming with our partnership. It's becoming more and more important for organizations to understand the value of zero trust data security and implement measures across all of their systems. So everything that they're doing with Microsoft, everything that you're doing with Rubrik can help you achieve the highest level of maturity. A maturity model will help to objectively assess your level of preparedness, identify areas for improvement, and embrace a proactive stance towards data breaches and data exfiltration. Thanks, Anne, for joining us in this conversation.
All right, excellent discussion. I learned a lot. I know the audience did as well. Thank you, Anne, and thank you, Annika. It's now time to turn it over to Valentine for our demo segment. Take it away.
So, sharing my screen now. Let me know if y'all can't see it. So today I'm going to be presenting Rubrik Security Cloud. So Rubrik Security Cloud is our hyper-converged software-defined data management platform. And this offers cloud scale with no limits, with instant data search and instant data access. So legacy protection architectures have always suffered from complexity and in turn cost due to aspects such as multiple console roles, rudimentary jobs and scheduling, and even component failures. Plus, they often fail to provide guidance on how to utilize cloud economics and make the process of migrating to the cloud or backing up data over the cloud difficult as a result. And in the event of VM failures or even a ransomware attack, finding a clean recovery point can be a challenge. So Rubrik Security Cloud was designed to solve all of these issues. In short, Rubrik Security Cloud, better known as RSC, aims to provide security for your data, protect your most mission-critical backups, and simplify the recovery process from a ransomware attack, for example. On-premise workloads are logically air-gapped. The data is not presented on the network via any recognized format, NFS or SMB. And cloud is also logically air-gapped, meaning that they're separate from the customer's tenant, and any interaction with the customer's tenant won't affect the Rubrik side. So because we prioritize simplicity, our service level agreement policy engine, better known as our SLA policy engine, architecture eliminates the need for constant monitoring or fixing broken backup jobs, helping to reduce operational costs. So when we first connect to RSC, we're brought here to the global dashboard. So this is 100% front-end code, so there's nothing to install, no plugins or agents needed. And I love this because we can clearly see all of the critical information needed to ensure the health of your enterprise data. Each tile shows the most pertinent info needed for data management and inspection for every phase of the Rubrik data lifecycle. Plus, we can hover over these tiles right here, and they give us more insights, such as cluster statistics, anomaly alert, and a summary of tasks in the past 24 hours. And if you need to dig deeper, you can go ahead and drill into any of these. And this capability can help you easily access more detailed information on any of these tiles here. So overall, the dashboard serves as a comprehensive management panel for all your on-prem and cloud backups. So before we jump into the bread and butter of what Rubrik Security Cloud is, which are the creating SLAs, I want to quickly touch upon our commitment to security in Rubrik Security Cloud. So security is our top priority, which is why we take a zero trust approach to protect and limit access to your dashboard. To ensure the security of your data, we offer a range of options. So we can go over here to our settings, go down to security. So we leverage SSO to establish a SAML 2.0 connection with your preferred ID provider, IP whitelisting to restrict access to trusted IP addresses or ranges, MFA to bolster your security posture. Any SAML 2.0 applications such as Windows, Google Authentication, Okta, or Duo would work in this place. And even account lockout. You can enforce account lockout to safeguard against brute force attacks on single user accounts by limiting the number of login attempts. So let's go ahead and jump back to the dashboard. So I'd love to show you how we can protect all of these objects by creating and using SLA domains. So with SLA domains, you can specify your desired state for data protection and apply it to physical or virtual workloads. And this results in an intuitive policy engine that handles all the details for you. You can set your recovery point objective requirement, retention periods, archive targets, and replication targets for near zero RTO requirements. And you just let Rubrik handle the rest. So to create an SLA domain, all we got to do is jump over right here. This is going to be our app tray. We jump over to data protection, and we can select SLA domains here. So out of the box, we have our gold, silver, and bronze SLA domains. So these are pre-built, and you can easily create your own to meet your own business needs. As you can see, this is a shared demo environment. So everybody's gone and created an SLA domain that fits their customers' business needs to show off on the dashboard here. So I highly recommend classifying your assets to make sure that the right data is being backed up as frequently as it should be. Frequency and retention should correlate to how important the asset is as a rule of thumb. So let's go ahead and see how to easily set all of this up. So let's go ahead and click on create an SLA domain. It's going to give you a quick summary of what you're about to do. And then we choose the type of object we want to protect. You can choose multiple objects, no problem. And as you can see, these are going to be our physical workloads. We can protect all of these different objects. And our cloud workloads are down here. And we even have our Microsoft 365 offering as well. Please reach out if you'd like more information on how you can protect your Microsoft 365 environment with Rubrik. For now, let's go ahead and choose vSphere virtual machines. So here we can define the frequency we want to back up at and the retention period of the data we're protecting. So some common settings to use are, let's say, every 4 hours for 1 day, 1 daily for 30 days, 1 monthly for about a year, and a year or 3 years. So this workflow here is meant to fix what is usually a very manual process of creating all of these tasks separately for multiple types of workloads. Once you create this SLA domain, it can be applied to multiple types of workloads. Also, I'd like to point out that specifying snapshot window is completely optional. You can specify the time you'd like the backup to happen, but we give you the option not to worry about managing the backup policy every single day. Instead, just leave it to the underlying AI model that handles a lot of the automation for Rubrik to pick the best time that uses the least compute in your environment. Next, we can enable archiving here so that long-term retention storage can be as cost-effective as it needs to be. This can be any public cloud provider for object storage, private cloud, or even an on-premise NFS local targets. So we can select the cluster and target we're archiving to. So this could be one of the big three, right? Google, Azure, or AWS. The only requirement Rubrik has is that the archive target is an S3 bucket. And the retention period you want to keep it on premise and then push it to the cloud. Next, we can enable replication from one Rubrik cluster to a replication site. So a disaster recovery site, ideally one that's geographically removed from the primary site. And you can choose how long you want to keep it at that replication target. You choose the slider, but I love to mention that, hey, you can also use right here, these text box, in case you can't get the slider to get there, just on your own. So here we can go ahead and press next. And we'll see any specific details. So for example, for a VM, we can also enable continuous data protection on the objects we selected for point-in-time recoveries for the lowest recovery point objective possible for you. This is accomplished via change block tracking under the hood. I recommend reserving this for your most critical workloads as it can get computationally expensive. So something to look out for there. Then we can simply name, give it an optional description, confirm that everything looks good here, and we press create. I won't be creating my own SLA domain today, but I'm glad I got to show exactly how that's done. So now that we have created an SLA domain, we can begin to protect all of our objects. So we can find all of our objects here in our data protection tool if we click on inventory. So here we can see a rundown of the objects that we can protect. So we can filter by data center. So that's going to be anything that's on-prem, vSphere, VMware, SQL, Oracle DBs, NAS, Linux hosts, even Nutanix. We can go over to cloud. So that's going to be your Azure, AWS, and GCP workloads. And finally, any SaaS, which would be Microsoft 365 for now, with more coming in the future. So for example, let's go back over here. Let's click on vSphere here. You'll see a list of virtual machines, folders, cluster hosts, and even tags. And the cool thing about this is that by assigning an SLA domain at any of these hierarchies, you can automatically apply a protection policy to everything beneath them, basically automating the whole process and saving you tons and tons of time. So to assign an SLA to an object, we can simply select one, or we can select many. No issues there. And then click on Manage Protection. And then choose a desired SLA. So I'm going to go ahead and go with, let's do gold, actually. And a little pro tip here, you can skip the whole creating an SLA and then coming over here, you can actually reverse that order. You can come to your inventory first and you can create an SLA domain straight from here if needed. So just a little pro tip I like to share. So all we got to do, click the SLA we want, and then all we have to do is confirm. And after we press assign, our objects are now protected. If you want to view the statistics, and here I'm going to show off the search function here where you can search for any VM in your environment. If you want to view the statistics of a specific object, such as a virtual machine, you can go ahead and search for it by name. So I've got a favorite one that I'm going to go ahead and search for here. And here we are. And here we can see the assigned SLA, the capacity of the object, and any other details the object may have. So now, if we want to recover an object, it's going to be within this pane right here. This calendar view right here, we can see all of our possible recovery points. The green check mark represents a successful point-in-time snapshot. We can go ahead and select one of these. And then we can select a particular time, a particular snapshot that we want to recover by hovering over here, and it's going to be on the right-hand side. All we got to do is click recover, and this brings up our recovery options. So you can choose the option that best fits for your recovery needs. For example, we have instant recovery, live mounting. So that's going to be similar to instant recovery. The key difference is the integrity of the VM snapshot is not altered during live mount functions. We can export. So an export creates a new VM from a point-in-time copy of the source VM. The chosen ESXi host allows the section of the data store for the recovered VM. We've got file level recovery as well, if we want to recover any files. So where the Rubrik cluster provides file level recovery of files and folders from any local snapshot, replica, or archival snapshot that was successfully indexed. We can also go ahead and place the snapshot on legal hold if we have to, change the retention period of the snapshot, or we can view it in our ransomware-based investigation tool. And when any kind of event, such as a recovery action, for example, is kicked off, that event gets logged. That's going to be right here. So this gives us a log of everything that's happened with this VM. And we can see events specific to this object when we navigate over to the events pane right here, as I've shown. And we can go ahead and see all events. If we come over here to the top ribbon, click on events, this shows us everything. And here we can filter everything that's gone on in the environment. And here we can go ahead and filter by time range, cluster name, the severity, status, event type, and object type. And so let's go ahead and filter by anomaly under event type. So here's a quick way to see, what exactly is wrong with your environment. Instead of scrubbing through a long log, we can go ahead and filter to find exactly what we need. So clicking on a specific event, such as this one up here, opens up a details pane where we can investigate our snapshot, which takes us over to a ransomware monitoring tool. So by clicking investigate snapshot, boom, now we're in our ransomware monitoring tool. Another way to get to the ransomware monitoring tool is through the app tray. So to demonstrate how our ransomware monitoring tool works, let's say a virtual machine has been attacked. So under the hood, what's happening is our platform takes a snapshot of that virtual machine and indexes it to create a baseline for the data's behavior. Then it compares the index to a subsequent snapshot. If any files have been created or modified, our pre-built AI model that's been trained by, countless, it's easily over 800 samples of data. It's been trained extremely well, and I cannot stress that enough. It's trained to recognize the difference between normal user activity, large-scale changes in data, and an actual encryption attack. So this reduces the rate of false positives. It also won't miss the one thing most attackers do today, encrypting the data. This means you'll get detection from your last line of defense and know exactly which servers and files were encrypted. We want to know what to recover in the event of a ransomware attack for the following reasons, right? Knowing what was affected almost in real time helps you pinpoint the items that you need to recover with relative ease. And knowing what is safe to recover helps prevent reinfection. So our ransomware monitoring tool also helps you discover the full scope of the damage and presents it to you through an intuitive visualizations in our user interface. This capability is native to our platform as well. So no data is sent to a third party for scanning. So this improves speeds and results in detection within minutes. And not only that, it reduces the vectors of attack. We can also integrate with Simon Sword tooling if needed. And in our ransomware investigation tool here, we can see that many suspicious files have been detected. So to recover to a clean point, let's go ahead and drill in here. And I'm going to show off how granular we can go ahead and get to see what exactly is going on. So if we want to go ahead and recover to a certain spot, to a clean recovery point, we can select the machine or drill down to a folder or file level, as I've done here with this HR department folder. And all we got to do is click recover. So this built-in AI model will automatically suggest the most recent clean point to recover to. As you can see up here, this is the name of the virtual machine, and this is the cleanest point to recover to, which looks like yesterday at around 6:37 p.m. So because we already have a list of the encrypted files, only those files will be recovered. So good data is never overwritten, reducing your recovery time. So in short, our ransomware monitoring tool simplifies the restore process to just a few clicks, eliminating the need for scripting or costly downtime due to slow restores. So what we do, right, is we identify an alert when encryption events occur, as well as identify the blast radius, what was affected. And why should you care, right? The ability to assess what data has been exposed and faster indication of what to recover in the event of attack is invaluable in moments of a ransomware attack. So how Rubrik does it better is we leverage our metadata to inspect the rate of change, interrogating any suspicious files to search for potential encryption events. So this turnkey solution is delivered via SaaS application with no impact of reduction or endpoint agents, and integrates with existing security tools, SIEM and SOAR tools seamlessly. You simply tell us what you want to cover, where you want to recover it to. As you can see, here are recovery options. We can go in and download the contents of this folder. We can overwrite the original. We can recover to a separate folder, or we can export it entirely to a different virtual machine. You simply tell us what you want to recover, where you want to recover to, and go in and click a button. Rubrik takes care of the rest. So imagine that an attacker has stolen your data and has threatened to release it, right? So the first question you'll likely ask is, what have they stolen? So without Rubrik, honestly, it can be hard to tell. You can infer what the minimum impact might be based on what the attacker accessed, but it's still a guessing game. However, with Rubrik, we can tell you exactly what the attacker encrypted. If they encrypted it, then they obviously had access to the data. The next question is, what was in that data? Rubrik can help with that too, thanks to our built-in sensitive data discovery solution. So if we navigate over to our data discovery dashboard, we can see a high-level overview of the sensitive data that you own. So I'd like to show you how Rubrik classifies your data. And to do that, we can go over to the Management tab and jump over into Analyzers. So here, as you can see, we have over 60 now different compliance analyzers out of the box for all common data types, with the ability to add your own custom analyzers using regex as well. We can then, over here, if we jump back over to policies, we can create a policy by choosing a custom set of analyzers to classify the data in each object we add to the policy. So newfound data in each snapshot will be classified on an ongoing basis. We can then assign the policy. So let's go here. We can go ahead and click California, go next. We can assign it to one or more objects. So this then searches through all the data being backed up every day and informs the user of the sensitive data found in those files, on those servers, etc. So there's no learning curve for all this, because this isn't some new piece of complicated software that you had to add on to your current environment. This just runs against the backups, all through Rubrik. So let's go over into our Objects tab over here, so I can show you how we made sensitive data discovery even more awesome than it already was. So by drilling into one of these objects, I'm going to go down here and sort by high risk. Let's go ahead and do this one. We can go ahead and see exactly what folders and files are in these objects right here, in these objects that we protected, the classification of sensitive data that they hold. And you can see this goes and changes depending on how far down the chain we go. And it even tells you which users have access to this data. So you can limit access and further bolster your security posture. In short, sensitive data discovery does three things exceptionally well. It tells you what kind of sensitive data you have, where your data lives, and if it is exposed, and who has access to that sensitive data. So with the power of both our ransomware investigation and sensitive data discovery tools, we can be sure that, at least in this example, ransomware is in the system and sensitive data is in the blast radius of the attack. The next tool in our arsenal I want to show off is Rubrik's threat hunting capabilities. So let's go ahead and jump over to our ransomware monitoring tool. Jump over to investigations and jump over to threat hunts right here. So threat hunting allows us to inspect systems without actually having to bring those systems up. This is extremely useful, in the god-awful case that there ever be a ransomware event, right? Having this tool is vital. It is extremely, extremely essential to be able to view exactly what kind of threat is in your system. So I can immediately start a threat hunt with a click of a button. And here we can specify any indicators of compromise based on YAR rules, file hashes, or file pattern. Using these indicators of compromise, we can perform a deep scan of all the backups in the time series to rapidly identify the blast radius of the attack, find the data we need to quarantine, and the best point in time to recover to. In this instance here, we've gone ahead and completed a file pattern run, as you can see right here. And we can see that matches based on the file pattern run of infections going all the way back to, well, yesterday, February 21st, right? Oh, that's the latest match snapshot. Actually, the earliest match snapshot is going to be February 17th. So it goes all the way back in the time series and lets you know when that sketchy behavior first started happening. So after performing the threat hunt, you can go ahead and quarantine a file by selecting the object with snapshots that matched the indicator of compromise and quarantine them. So this will apply the quarantine to all the matched files or the selected files, because we can go ahead and dig deeper into the file path if necessary to go ahead and quarantine certain files if necessary. So when a file within a set of snapshots is quarantined, users who do not have the recovery quarantine files and snapshot privileges are prevented from recovering the file or recovering the VM image containing that quarantine file. And users are able to perform file level recoveries of non-quarantine files. So quick recap on our threat hunting capabilities. So what we do, we offer the ability to threat hunt. We leverage YAR rules, file hashes, and file patterns to detect indicators of compromise. Why should we care? Quickly leveraging these indicators of compromise to determine compromised systems, this prevents the likelihood of reinfection drastically. And how Rubrik does it better is Rubrik's threat hunting capabilities are built into the platform. No third-party dependence, and in effect, no created vectors of attack. So now I'd like to show you how we can automate the process of recovering your data. So if we jump over to orchestrated recovery right here, orchestrated recovery is one of the tools in RSC used to enable orchestrated and automated recovery of applications running in VMware vSphere virtual machines, for example, and its current recovery capabilities include automated and orchestrated crash consistent application failover and failback, failover testing to an isolated network predefined by the customer in vSphere, of course, local in-place recovery, as well as compliance reporting that affects the actions of each recovery job in detail. So these actions are coordinated in each protected application with user-defined recovery plans that can be created using this button right here. So in terms of RTOs, how do we get you online as fast as we can? It's with a concept called hydration. If you start replicating between data clusters, today we replicate full and then incrementals after that first pull. In terms of RPO, we can use your snapshots as you have them defined today, and orchestrated recovery integrates with continuous data protection for your most important workloads, meaning that you can get down to about a 60-second RPO. I've personally even seen sub 60-second RPOs. As an operator, you can always see in the UI if your disaster recovery site is lagging and see the health of everything that's ongoing, which, data observability is one of the fundamentals that we pride ourselves upon, and is extremely useful in this regard. So for failover and failback, it's just 2 clicks and done. It's 1 click to power off the VMs, and then another click. Power off the VMs on production rather, and then we'll ask you if you're really sure before we fail over. So you can click again to confirm, and then failback is just the inverse of that. And of course, we'll provide in the product the compliance reporting you need, including reporting that comes after you do any test in your test bubble environment, for example. So when would you use orchestrated app recovery? So you can use it for traditional disaster recovery. So that could be outages due to admin error, power outages, hurricanes, fires, etc. So you can execute an in-place or remote failover, depending on the circumstances, to recover the environment. You can also use it for recovery from a ransomware attack. You can execute an in-place or remote failover. So that's going to depend on the circumstances as well to recover your environment. And you can also recover from regular software patching. That's one thing a lot of organizations don't consider. Sometimes Windows releases a bad patch and you got to roll back, right? So if software patching fails or causes issues, you can execute a predefined blueprint to an in-place recover to a pre-patch snapshot. All right. Last but not least, I want to show off our data security command center. So here at Rubrik, we want customers to be confident in improving their data security posture. This is why we've created the Data Security Command Center. It inspects your system to make sure that all necessary steps are taken to constantly improve your data security posture. This shows you where you can improve. As you can see down here, it's much like a credit score in that sense, right? And you could drill in, and it even provides calls to action on how you could best bolster your security posture. So for example, if we went ahead and responded to this call of action here and took the action, right, our score would be impacted by a third. So definitely something to consider. And it's great that it tells you exactly what you need to do to better bolster your security posture. So as we wrap up this demonstration, I want to emphasize why our customers are making the switch to Rubrik. It's not about building a better, faster Foxtrap and replacing backup. Better backup, that's an issue that's already been solved, and tons of companies do it well. And I must admit, Rubrik does it the best. So at Rubrik, we really want to emphasize that we prioritize security in all of our discussions, starting with leadership and extending to security teams. Our goal is not only to protect data, but to empower our customers with data resilience, observability, and remediation. We understand that data protection is more than just backups. It's about building a strong foundation for your organization's data management strategy. So thank you for joining me today on this journey, on this demo. Remember, with Rubrik, you don't just back up, you go forward. So let us help you build a data management strategy that helps your business thrive. And let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.
All right, that was a really cool demo. Thank you so much, Val. I really appreciate that. I'm afraid we've run out of time here for live Q&A. I know we want to keep these sessions a little bit shorter, respect everyone's time. If you have a question, feel free to drop it there in the questions box, and the Rubrik team will be responding to you shortly. I also encourage you to check out the handouts tab there for additional information, additional links and resources on the Rubrik solution. All right, and with that, it's now time to announce the winner of our Amazon $250 gift card. This one's going out to John Adaletta from Texas. Congratulations, John Adaletta from Texas. Thanks to everyone who joined us on the webinar today. For additional information, check out Rubrik.com. Have a great day. Bye-bye.